is up, everybody? Okay, so we're going to go through the post-processing of Agony. This is the entry that I did for a Halloween contest. And what I wanted to do was kind of like just like a mashup of creatures. It comes from like an old movie called The Thing. And it's like this monster with just limbs and all this kind of stuff. And I wanted to put something together like this inside of Daz. Now, in order to put something like this together in Daz, you do need a pretty damn good machine. It is what it is. You need something pretty damn strong. I had a lot of issues rendering all of this because it was just too many characters and stuff. So I optimized by putting a couple of characters down, like the sub D levels of some characters, and I left the most important ones up. And over here you can just see I always put like these two bars in. It helps me to kind of crop the image in a way. I have to put those little things around the boobies because it gets flagged. And over here I'm just drawing in blood, and I'm putting it on like a multiply on the layer, and I'm just drawing in blood. It's as simple as that. And I'm using different colors, so red, dark red, white for highlights. The hand is a tad bit blurred, not a lot, but you can see I'm putting it on layers, the brightness on a layer, this on a layer, that on a layer, and then I can combine them all. And that's the same with all this kind of stuff. I put on like a dirt, and then I just match it in. Now remember, you can use like any images for dirt and stuff. It's pretty cool. And then because the image has multiple layers of depth of field, you have to be able to put blur it accordingly. You can't just leave a clear dirt on a blurred figure. You have to blur it to what it is. Over here I'm using something called Ron's Blood. Okay, it's a pack of blood, and you can use it for so many different things. Over here I'm using it for like a little bit of dirt or dried up whatever. You'll see I kind of cleaned it up a little later. And on this one you can just see I'm blurring some elements, deleting some elements that don't work, blurring, moving. Remember, you can crop out certain parts of it, move it, blur that part only, and whatnot. Over here I always cut the eyes out, the eyeballs, and I always just brighten them up a bit so they kind of shine a little bit. See, that gives it a little bit of shine, which is nice. Over here, same thing. I'm taking all the eyes of them creature, okay, and I'm kind of darkening them a lot. And then I just go in with a brush, normal brush, a faded brush, and I just clean it up. Take your time, clean it up a little bit. It's fun, and just kind of mold them in. And once you've got that, you can start just testing them out, seeing, playing with different values and whatnot. And over here I settled on like a pretty dark eye, which is cool. Looks good. Look good. Over here, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. No, I'm kidding. So I take a duplicate of the image and I put it on top. I brighten it a bit, and then I start deleting parts of it. So I can start having some different parts a little bit lighter than others, a little bit darker than others, and it works. It works a treat. Always the vignette. What a vignette does is it focuses your eye on what's important. You darken the surrounding, the edges, and it leads your eye into the center of the image, which is really important. If you've noticed, every line in this image literally points towards the girl. The arms, the limbs, the legs, everything kind of leads your eye towards the center. So that was planned. And over here you can just see I'm cropping. I'm taking stuff off. Now that's one of the hardest things people find, is cropping an image. They want to show the whole image because they built the whole image. Learn to crop things off that don't need to be there. They don't need to be here. Over here I'm just blackening the eyes so I can pop up the eyeballs. It puts a little bit of like makeup on. I start painting a little bit of tears on here. And this just gives it a really nice little effect of her crying or sweating or whatever. Same thing here, adding highlights to the eyes, a little bit of tears, and it just pops everything out. I got some blood happening over there. Obviously it's very blurred. I'm trying to get like a bit of a background on there, background blood. There we go. Blur it so it just looks a little bit more realistic. Blood doesn't just happen in streaks, it happens in like blotches, right? It's like that. Boom. Done. And then we move on. I'm just always constantly messing with like the values, the brightness, the contrast, and whatnot, and I put it in a layer, so it's not it's non-destructive. Okay, I can always change it. Over here, I'm just blending a few pieces together, so it feels like things are blended and molding in and whatnot. And over here, I'm just cleaning up the eyes, making them shine a bit. There's a bit of noise in the eyes and whatnot, but it's okay. The image is it's small. The eyes are small. It's not a big deal. I did clean up a lot of it. And over here, I'm just adding like dirt, dried blood and dirt to her. I'm trying a couple of different things here. And this just started working. Get a different brush, a dynamic brush, and it just starts happening, working, and put on the opacity, and it works. Here I'm using Ron's blood again, seeing where it fits, seeing where it works. And I think I found a place there on the hand. Now remember, things don't have to be overly done. They don't have to be seen, completely seen. They can be subtle changes, and that's what makes it cool. That's what makes it kind of realistic. Over here, I'm just putting some blood onto that like arm skull thingy. Oh, I'm changing it, mate. I'm changing it. Have a look, see where things work. Look at that. Bam, on the hand. It works. Gives that little bit of dirt, a little bit of weirdness. Perfect. Over here, once again, I'm just taking the pieces that I want. There, just like that. And then multiply it on, do whatever, and just start messing around with it. They don't have to be, add a little bit more to it. Remember, when you get an element or a layer or something, it's not about just having that one thing. It's about building that layer, building the effect, making it feel good. And this is what we're doing here. We're just kind of adding a little bit more. Now it looks like she's a bit bruised, a little bit screwed, blackness, which is like what is it called? The bruising and whatnot. Eyes, make them a little bit darker, gives it a little bit of a darker feel, and it pops the eyes out. And there, you can see the difference right there with that little bit of a dark layer underneath, a little bit of a blurred dark layer underneath. And it's awesome. It works. And then add the highlights. Highlights are so important. Ari, go El Ari, and take that monster of a wife with you. So, over here, just painting a little bit of blood on the teeth. And remember, things don't have to be very accurate because you're still messing around with it afterwards. Now, this brush I have here is a lovely brush. I don't know what it is. It's like a wet brush. So every time you go over it, you're adding another layer onto it. So you can see blood isn't one color. It's multiple colors. And that's what this brush kind of does, which is beautiful. And then I'm using the blur gallery. I'm using that blur where you can add dots and see what different types of blur, because there's depth of field on this mouth. Closer up, it's less blurred, and further back, it's more blurred. So I'm doing that. It's not just one blur. Take your time, mess around with it. And then I'm using like this dynamic noise brush just to break it all up. Boom. Put it in, paint it, break it up with the brush. And that comes under like that blur brushes. It's awesome. And then you get a cool look. You get a cool look and feel. I'm using perspective here just to distort the brush. Remember, you got a bunch of tools. Use them. It works. That's why. Over here, I'm just blurring it all up a bit. Once again, blood on perfect streaks, perfect this, whatever. It's a mess. It's a mess if you're touching it and rubbing it over the body and dripping, and there's so many different things to it. Now this blood pack is great. See, a lot of artists, they take what their element is and they think they need to use it exactly what it is. They put it on, they leave it there, and it just looks so weird. It doesn't look good. Over here, I'm blurring, using it as background blurs, using it as like a little bit of a under thing to the real blood, just to smudge it or whatever. And if things don't work, take it out. Just take it out. If you're looking at it and it's not working, take it out. because it's not right. Take your time, get things right. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm changing the colors there on the blood and the skull, so there's different colors, colored layers. They're not always standard color. I'm looking at a couple of Ron's blood brushes there, seeing what can work. Over here, bam, okay. I can see it can fit. If it doesn't fit, you can make it fit. Just like this. Look, bam, bam. Just getting that kind of feel, the color right. It doesn't look wet enough. Okay, we can work on that. But just getting it on there first. And then blend it in, composite it in. And that's where the magic happens. When you're compositing these things in, that's where it happens. Put some highlights, blur them in. Okay, it still doesn't look wet. Okay, but it's starting to look pretty cool. It's looking a lot better. Later on, I start making it feel a bit more realistic. It's fine. And over here, I'm using Ron's slime. And this one, you need to use carefully. You can't just slime the whole thing up. Use it in strategic places. I used slime about maybe 4 times in this whole image, but you notice it. And it's not overwhelming, and it's not overused. Remember, subtlety in these things. Once you put it in, composite it in, get the colors right, get the blurs right. That's way too much there that I thought. So I took it away. Bam. There we go. Subtle. Boom. I've got the slime. It works. And then I start doing this on other ones, other places where it could need it. That's completely off screen. So that doesn't El Pasari. Why does Margaret do that? I'm putting the slime on. There's Margaret in the head with the arm coming out of the mouth. That's Margaret, which has got makeup on. All right, that's what she looks like a beast. On the side of the arm, bam, you can see changing it so it fits in. And I love doing that. It's amazing. Once again, always check in I've got another layer on top which is darker, and then I'm brushing away the lighter part. So there's a darker layer on top now, and I'm masking that darker layer so I can get highlights coming out or brighter parts of the image coming out underneath. Once again, the background is just a gradient. I go in, I paint a couple of colors, and then I start messing with the brightness contrast. I start messing with the radial blurs so it looks cool. I start painting in different things with a soft brush. And what this does is it starts pushing the image out. You see that? A little bit lighter in the background, and you start to push the image out, which is pretty cool. It's nice. Looks good. Though you don't have to go crazy. Subtle. Everything in art is subtle. You don't have to make these grand gestures. This is pushed out. Look at this. No, it's like everything is very subtle when you do this, and it helps. It works. You don't need something pushed beyond recognition that it looks dumb or non-plausible. It just subtle things. Over here, I'm starting to put in a vignette, starting to mess around with it, starting to blur it a bit, kind of make a little bit of a pattern out of it so it doesn't look too much. A completely dark vignette here didn't work, so I didn't use it. Now I've lost too much detail, so I'm going in and kind of just getting parts out that I want to push out or be seen. And the vignette is actually a couple of layers. This is about 3-4 layers of vignette, different darknesses, different parts, different places. Over here I put some slime on the teeth, just blend it in nicely, mold it in, bam, it works. Now get the color right, cool, then get the blur right. So I put the slime in, I comp it in, I get the color right, and then I blur it, and it works. And I'm just seeing if there's any other places. There we go, that's a nice place, that works. Try things. If they don't seem right, they're not. Simple as that. I tried a million brushes here, a million things, but things didn't look perfect. Over here, I found a place, looked pretty cool, very subtle, very chilled, used it, done. And remember, if you've got multiple slimes on one layer, you can kind of put, you can select it and just work on that one. Everything, the color, blurriness, the whatever, you can just work on that one if you've got that selected. And that you could just use that kind of tool, that lasso tool. Over here, I'm just mending things in again. Looking pretty cool. I can still see the face behind it. It's looking good. I'm happy. And look how that blood turned out on her chest, that top part. It's just dirt. It just became dirt layer, which is awesome. It works. It's kind of like Margaret, just dirt. Over here, once again, I'm using that blur where it's like a directional kind of, it's a little bit more blurry in the top than the bottom. And that's what worked there. And just using it. You see, you can pick up where the slime is in this image, but it's not overpowering. It's not overpowering, and that's one of the biggest things I can tell you. Just don't have things overpowering. Doesn't work. Everything needs to kind of fit in as a single image. Nothing needs to be overpowering unless that is what you're really focusing on, which is fine then. And that's it. I just keep messing around, seeing different things. If it doesn't work, just delete it. You don't need it, Ari. You don't need it. Now, if you look closely, you can see Ari in the image. Look at Ari. Ari is the image. Ari is the embodiment of this image. That's what he is inside and outside. Alright? That's why I don't like him. That's why I don't like the bastard. And there's little wee Margaret, right in the mouth. And that's it. This is all I'm doing. I just keep fixing things, testing things. I test non-stop. I tweak non-stop. And sometimes it doesn't work, man. This image, it's cool. It's cool. It's not my favorite, but it's cool. There's a lot of work that went into this. The posing is what I really enjoyed. Like, posing this entire image, everything that it looks plausible and it fits and it works, that was a nightmare. Absolutely, especially in Daz. Posing in Daz is a nightmare. Wow. Nothing works well there. Anyway, I'm just carrying on here with these brushes, but we end this soon. And then we're just putting on final touches on the vignette, adding a little bit of color to it, like there's a little bit of sun. You know, the orange is coming through, so you see some oranges on the left-hand side there on the vignette. I'm putting kind of like this blurred, sharp, angular vignette. I'm putting kind of spikes on it and distortion and just something that feels a little bit dangerous or uneasy, you know, dirt. Just to add to the whole effect of dirt and, you know, uneasiness. These kind of everything leading you towards the center. Everything, every little stroke, every whatever leads you towards the center. Oh God, I'm tired. It's Jimmy's fault. And over here, just putting one last blur on the vignette and just touching it up. And that's it. I hope you enjoy this. Go check the final image out on RenderHub. I'll put a link below. I hope you enjoyed this. There's another one that I'm going to put up, and that's the rest of the posing of the image. But there's boobies in there because I needed to work on everything, and so I'll put that up just as an extra. I hope this helps. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it gives you a way of different thinking. Anyway, speak to you later. Have a great weekend, and see you later. Bye, guys.